When black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself.
In the surrounding darkness of the darkest nights, the man, Malcolm X, was born a shining star. Yes, surrounded by a situation so precarious, sure did precipitate some intellectual moxie in the man as he grew, confronting the crying plight of his black brothers and sisters.
We don't teach you to turn the other cheek. We don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the South, and we don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the North. We teach you to obey the law. We teach you to carry yourselves in a respectable way. But at the same time, we teach you that anyone who puts his hand on you, do your best to see that he doesn't put it on anybody else.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
His only offense was his unwavering conviction, which ultimately led to his tragic and brutal untimely demise. At only age 39, Malcolm X's life was senselessly cut short in Manhattan, New York City, where he was mercilessly gunned down with 21 bullets.
I heard shots, and I saw people crawling on the floor. And so I got down too. But then when I was looking out and I saw someone look in amazement to the front, I knew they had shot my husband. And my children were crying, you know, what's going on? What's going on? Are they going to shoot us?
I'm a child with a forever memory of the most significant man in my life standing at a podium and falling backwards. That's forever.
It was a sad ending. Before his assassination in 1965, Malcolm had broken away from the Nation of Islam in March of 1964 and had candidly aired his reasons, which were quite revealing and troubling.
Well, in reality, I never even left the Muslim movement. They put me out. And they put me out because of what I knew, and what I knew was told to me by Mr. Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad himself. They put me out and they put him out.
Who is the father of all of these various children whom you have enumerated?
The first one to tell me who the father was Wallace Muhammad, and he told me that the father was Elijah Muhammad himself.
And how many of these illegitimate children did he father with the sisters?
Well, he made 6 sisters pregnant. They all had children. 2 of those 6 had 2 children. I am told that there is a 7th sister who is supposed to be in Mexico right now, and she's supposed to be having a child by him.
Malcolm had even openly expressed concerns for his safety when asked by the reporter, who felt strong concerns for what he knew.
Are you not perhaps afraid of what might happen to you as a result of making these revelations?
Oh yes, I probably am a dead man already.
However, Malcolm seemed to have prepared himself for his death and was a man ready for anything whatsoever in a journey surrounded by intense hostility and hate and segregation.
No, I don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
He didn't teach hate. All he did was proclaim self-love and open the black man's eyes to the suffering that they've been through in the hands of the white man for centuries, and how they could come out strong and independent.
Well, I religiously believe that the only way the black man's condition can be corrected in America, politically, socially, economically, and otherwise, is if we do it ourselves. And our religion teaches us and gives us the incentive, the ingenuity, the know-how to separate ourselves from white society and try and do for ourselves in our own society what the white man has done for himself and his kind in his society.
20 million black people in this country have been like boys in the white man's house. He even calls us boy. Don't care how big you get, he calls you boy. You can be a professor. To him, you're just another boy. I heard him calling Ralph Bunch. Well, he's a good old boy. And if we can't do it, we should hush our mouth. If you can't do for yourself what the white man is doing for himself, don't say you're equal with the white man. If you can't set up a factory like he sets up a factory, don't talk that old equality talk. Get off the welfare. Get out of that compensation line. Be a man. Earn what you need for your own family. Then your family respects you. They are proud to say, that's my father. She's proud to say, that's my husband. Father means you're taking care of those children. Just because you made them, that don't mean you're a father. Anybody can make a baby, but anybody can't take care of them. Anybody can go and get a woman, but anybody can't take care of a woman.
His brutal assassination was a major decline and setback on black community. Malcolm was a burning flame going before hundreds of thousands of black families who suddenly were plunged back into raving darkness the moment this light was extinguished.
To understand this, you have to go back to what young brother here referred to as the house Negro and the field Negro back during slavery. There was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro, they lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but still they lived near their master. And they loved their master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save their master's house quicker than the master would. The house Negro, if the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro said, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro. If the master's house caught on fire, the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick. We sick. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, that house Negro would look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was that house. In those days, he was called a house. And that's what we call him today, because we still got some house running around here.
If you say that you're fed up, if you teach the Negro, they don't even know their own name. Why? Because he took it away from them. Please. 20 million black people don't even know their own language. Why? Because he took it away from them. 20 million black people who don't even know the history of their ancestors. Why? Because he took it away from them. And if you try and tell them how thoroughly and completely they've been robbed, he says you're teaching hate.
The white man's entrenched ideology and deep-seated disdain for the black race have inadvertently fueled the passionate advocacy of visionary leaders. Driven by a desire to expose the truth and challenge the status quo, Malcolm X, from a very young age, started to shed light on the systemic injustices and inequalities that have plagued the black community for centuries.
Malcolm, how do you yourself feel about the white man?
I believe that the white man has done a great injustice to the black man in this country by having kidnapped our people and brought us here and down to the level that we're on today. And today, instead of approaching the factors that their original mistake has created, instead of approaching these factors objectively and realistically, the greatest sin that they're doing now is trying to pretend that they never committed a crime, that they never did any wrong. And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad points out the injustices that our people are suffering, they make that sin worse by accusing him of teaching hate, or by accusing him of black supremacy, or by accusing him of advocating violence, simply because he is pointing out the real factors in the problem.
Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom. And when black people in this country come out from under the mental straitjacket that the Negro clergymen have placed them in, and begin to see that the only way you can get freedom is to get it the same way the white man in this country got it from England, or when you're willing to pay the price for freedom, then you get it. But the Negro in this country has never been willing to pay the price for his freedom. All of the price that we have been paying in the past has been freedom for the white man. We fought abroad so that the white man in America could be free today to sick police dogs on us, to beat our people in the heads with police clubs, and to turn water hoses on little women and children and babies, simply because they want to walk down the street like decent human beings. That's now the only way you can have peace is to eliminate those injustices, and the American white man is not going to eliminate them. He's going to talk that pretty talk, but he'll still continue to practice those inhuman deeds.
To truly get to pay attention to Mr. X's speeches is equivalent to earning a master's degree without stepping foot in college. With his commanding presence, sharp intellect, and powerful words, he towered tall.
Could we press for a very simple answer to one question? Do you hate all white people?
I don't think it's a fair question. The white man doesn't even come into my attitude. Mr. Muhammad teaches us to love our own kind and let the white man take care of himself. For a white man today, sir, after kidnapping millions of black people from Africa, stripping them of all human characteristics and relegating them to the role of chattel or cattle or animals, commodity, merchandise that could be bought and sold at will, and then 100 years since the Emancipation Proclamation, using every type of deceptive method to further us into slavery, called second-class citizenship, I think that it would take a whole lot of nerve for the white people today to ask Negroes, do they hate them?
Sent to awaken the black community by exposing the harsh realities of systemic oppression, and at the same time, shedding light on the past, present, and ongoing struggles of the black race.
So I just want to clear up that little point right there, because he says that we play on your emotions. And when you turn on your television tonight, or your radio, or read the newspaper, they're going to tell you in that paper that I was playing on your emotions. Imagine you, a second-class citizen. That's not getting emotional, it's getting intelligent. And as far as your mayor is concerned, I should say their mayor, a man named Yorty, who has been slandering the Muslims, a professional liar, who has mastered the art of using half-truth. Put it in the paper that they broke into our religious place of worship and got records that they can use to prove that most of us have criminal records. You can't be a Negro in America and not have a criminal record. Martin Luther King has been to jail. Clean. James Farmer has been to jail. Why, you can't name a black man in this country who is sick and tired of the hell that he's catching who hasn't been to jail.
Unbothered about the fact that countless Negroes have been severely punished and in some cases killed because of the same reason, Malcolm X will continue in his attempt to fight for the rights of the black man due to the abuse his family and himself had suffered during his early years as a boy.
Charged him with being seditious. They put Moses in jail. They put Daniel in jail. Why, you haven't got a man of God in the Bible that wasn't put to jail when they started speaking out against exploitation and oppression. They charged Jesus with sedition. Didn't they do that? They said he was against Caesar. They said he was discriminating because he told his disciples, go not the way of the Gentiles, but rather go to the lost sheep. He discriminated. Don't go near the Gentiles, go to the lost sheep. Go to the oppressed. Go to the downtrodden. Go to the exploited. Go to the people who don't know who they are, who are lost from the knowledge of themselves, and who are strangers in a land that is not theirs. Go to those people. Go to the slaves. Go to the second-class citizens. Go to the ones who are suffering the brunt of Caesar's brutality. And if Jesus were here in America today, he wouldn't be going to the white man. The white man is the oppressor. He would be going to the oppressed. He would be going to the humble. He would be going to the lowly. He would be going to the rejected and the despised. He would be going to the so-called American Negro. To have once been a criminal is no disgrace. To remain a criminal is the disgrace. I formerly was a criminal. I formerly was in prison. I'm not ashamed of that. You never can use that over my head. And that he's using the wrong stick. I don't feel that stick. I went to prison because I believed in men like Sam Yorty. I went to prison because I trusted men like Sam Yorty. I went to prison following the philosophy of men like Sam Yorty. But since I've been following the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I have been reformed, and that's more, please. That's more than Sam Yorty and Chief Parker and all these other white politicians have been able to do with the inmates in the prisons of this state. They should give Mr. Muhammad credit. They should give Mr. Muhammad credit for reforming and rehabilitating men whom they have failed to reform and rehabilitate. Mayor Yorty referred to some press report that Mr. Muhammad had once been found guilty of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He failed to explain purposely that in 1934, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad refused to send his children to the white schools in Detroit, Michigan that were teaching you about little black Sambo. That's the minor that he contributed to the delinquency of. You see, this vicious, fork-tongued white man has been able to take lies and make you turn against those who want to help you and make others turn against you. This is the contributing to the delinquency of a minor that this mayor, or man who calls himself mayor, is talking about.
His unconventional oratories were not ones to show any form of susceptibility, nor were they sugar-coated regarding anyone in the wrong, regardless of status or position. Once Malcolm notices you to be an oppressor, he wouldn't hesitate to call you what you are.
The white man believes you when you go to him with that old sweet talk, because you've been sweet-talking him ever since he brought you here. Stop sweet-talking. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. In the same article, he said that the Muslims are the same people who rioted in the United Nations. Someone should pull his coat and let him know that at the present moment, there are $6 million worth of suits leveled against two of New York's leading newspapers for making the mistake of charging the Muslims as being involved in those United Nations riots. We were not involved. And if this fork-tongued man who calls himself your mayor had taken the time to find that out, he wouldn't be walking into the trap that he's letting his ignorance lead him into. And if you will take the time to read the Washington Post that came out the Sunday after that incident took place, the Washington Post pointed out on the front page that the Muslims had nothing to do with the UN riots. And they quoted, in saying so, the person who was at that time the commissioner of police in New York City. See, it's lies that the white man has spread about the Muslims to try and make you afraid of the Muslims, or to try and make you think that the Muslims were a criminal element, an uncouth element, and things that you would not like to be associated with. Also, they say that I'm just clearing these things up, and then we're going to get into what happened. They also say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a draft dodger. No, he wasn't. He just refused to go to the army because he was a man of peace. He was a minister of a religion of peace. He was teaching peace, so he outright refused to go to the army. That's not draft dodging, that's intelligence.
In his teachings, his message is usually clear. Self-defense is just with the use of common sense, because the white man tries to trick us into thinking that protecting ourselves, learning our rights, and standing up against brutality is actually teaching hate. Malcolm X exposes this lie, clarifying the big difference between defending oneself and spreading hate.
And then again, if we tell you that Negroes are being hung on the tree or being shot down illegally, unjustly, and those Negroes should do something to protect themselves, you say you're advocating violence. The white man is tricking you. He's trapping you. He doesn't call it violence when he lands troops in South Vietnam. Please. He doesn't call it violence when he lands troops in Berlin. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, he didn't say get nonviolent. He said, praise the Lord, but pass the ammunition. But when someone attacks you, when someone comes at you with a club, when someone comes at you with a rope, when someone comes at you with a gun, despite the fact that you've done nothing, he tells you, suffer peacefully. Pray for those who use you despitefully. Be long-suffering. And how long can you suffer after suffering for 400 years?
Daily life, and particularly during his impassioned speeches, Malcolm laid bare the harsh truths of the injustices heaped upon the black man, thereby stirring something deep within his audience, both the black and white, arousing in them a righteous indignation that stirred them to stand up for the downtrodden and marginalized black community. His message laid total emphasis on, we can't just sit back and let the oppressors keep us down. We got to take our pain and turn it into fuel for our fight.
Because the coroner's jury is stacked against Negroes. The grand jury is stacked against Negroes. The press, the radio, the television, and the newspapers are stacked against Negroes. But please, the Los Angeles Police Department is stacked against Negroes. He is stacked against all Negroes, all except those whom he has appointed to high positions. The controlled press, the white press, inflames the white public against Negroes. The police are able to use it to paint the Negro community as a criminal element. The police are able to use the press to make the white public think that 90% or 99% of the Negroes in the Negro community are criminals. And once the white public is convinced that most of the Negro community is a criminal element, then this automatically paves the way for the police to move into the Negro community, exercising Gestapo tactics, stopping any black man who is on the sidewalk, whether he is guilty or whether he is innocent, whether he is well-dressed or whether he is poorly dressed, whether he is educated or whether he is dumb, whether he's a Christian or whether he's a Muslim, as long as he is black and a member of the Negro community, the white public thinks that the white policeman is justified in going in there and trampling on that man's civil rights and on that man's human rights. Once the police have convinced the white public that the so-called Negro community is a criminal element, they can go in and question, brutalize, murder unarmed, innocent Negroes, and the white public is gullible enough to back them up. This makes the Negro community a police state. This makes the Negro neighborhood a police state. It's the most heavily patrolled. It has more police in it than any other neighborhood, yet it has more crime in it than any other neighborhood. How can you have more cops and more crime? Why? It shows you that the cops must be in cahoots with the criminal.
Quite on point. Need more proof? Malcolm got it all.
The texture of the hair that God pleased, that God gave them, so much that they'll put lye on it. Do you realize, now, you know, brother, lye will eat a hole in steel, and you know your head is not that hard. Please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Inferiority complex. That's one wound that cut deep into the veins of the black man, leaving scars that still linger, even in this modern age and time. This was what Malcolm opened the crying eyes of his black brothers and sisters to see in that memorable year of 1962, May the 5th, in Los Angeles.
We teach you to love the hair that God gave you. Here you way out in the middle of the ocean, can't swim, and you worried about someone that's in the bathtub and can't swim. We don't steal, we don't gamble, we don't lie, and we don't cheat. And that also deprives the government of revenue, because you can't get into a whiskey bottle without getting past the government seal. You can't open a deck of cards without getting past the government seal. There's a white man makes the whiskey and then puts you in jail for getting drunk.
The white man makes the whiskey and puts you in jail for getting drunk. The irreplaceable words of Malcolm are forever studded on the hearts of men.
He sells you the cards and the dice and puts you in jail when he catches you using them. So he's against us because we fix it where he can't catch you anymore. We take the dice out of your hands and the cards out of your hands and the whiskey out of your head. The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And as Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. And the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman. We will kill you for our woman. I'm making it plain, yes. We will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands out to put in the direction of our women. We respect them, but we want them to respect us. We think that the law should respect the Negro community. The law should protect the Negro community. The law should approach the Negro community with intelligence if it expects the Negro community to react intelligently.
This fight for the black and white equality has lingered for so long and eventually lead to the loss of so many black lives, with many others having to live with disabilities for the rest of their lives. One instance of this was the Ronald Stokes shooting of 1962.
It has no case against these brothers whom they shot down. And because it has no case, it's trying to create a case. It's trying to manufacture a case. And therefore they set up a grand jury hearing of the case so that they could hear it behind closed doors, and after hearing what we have to say, then build their particular strategy or defense against the actions that they committed on that April the 27th. So at the advice of our attorneys, we purposely, the victims, those who have been indicted, or rather those who have been arrested and are out on bond, have purposely refrained and refused from making any statement whatsoever until after the case appears in court. And when you hear their story, it will be in a public trial. We have already had experience with these private hearings behind closed doors. Anything that the white man has to do to the Muslim, he has to do it in the open. He has to do it in public, or he has to put every single one of us behind bars for the rest of our lives. We feel, we have confidence that the white public and the black public, if they hear our case, if they hear and have access to the investigation, will never be fooled by this phony setup that's stacked from the top all the way down. And if you doubt it, when you leave home tonight, when you go home tonight, look for the press. I'd like at this time to call forth these brothers who are who were arrested. The brothers who were arrested, come up here behind these chairs, please. They were suspects. This wouldn't happen in a white neighborhood. White man can walk down the street with packages on his head, packages under his arm, and packages everywhere else, and won't anybody question his right to carry those packages. But a Negro is suspect because the press makes you suspect. Yes, the white press makes Negroes suspect. What do you got? All the information you need, officer. And the officer made one stay at the rear of the car and the other go to the front of the car. And while he was taking the one to the front of the car, the polite attitude, the humble air, the submissive, intelligent, peaceful spirit that he unexpectedly found in this Negro infuriated him. And he began to, he told the brother, put down your hands. Brother was talking, he's not a criminal. A man has a right on the sidewalk to talk with his hands. Put down your hand, don't talk with your hands. And when the brother continued to gesture with his hands, the officer grabbed his hand, twisted it around behind his back, flung him up against the car, and then that's when hell broke loose. That was when hell broke loose. A struggle ensued. Shots were fired by the police and by a Negro door shaker.
On that day, 2 Nation of Islam members were harassed by the Los Angeles Police Department officers who falsely accused them of selling stolen goods. The officers used racial epithets and attempted to choke one of the men, prompting other NOI members within the mosque to intervene.
When the alarm went out, instead of the police going to the place where the incident occurred, the police went 1 block away to the temple. When they arrived there, they got out of their cars with their guns smoking. You would have thought it was Wyatt, what his name? Wyatt Earp. I'm telling you, they came out of those cars and we have enough witnesses to hang them with their guns smoking. Chief Parker knows this, Mayor Yorty knows this, and every police official in the city knows that. They didn't fire no warning shots in the air. They fired warning shots point blank at innocent, unarmed, defenseless Negroes. As I say, 2 of the brothers were shot in the back. Another was shot in the shoulder. Another was shot, 2 of them were shot, excuse the expression, through the penis. Another was shot in the hip, and the bullet came out the other side. Brother Arthur here was shot 1/4 of an inch from his heart.
The situation further escalated when 70 LAPD officers were deployed to the scene to conduct a brutal raid of the mosque, thereby shooting 7 unarmed NOI members, including Ronald Stokes, who was killed, and William X. Rogers, who was paralyzed from a bullet wound at the back.
And I'll tell you why you say we hate white people. We don't hate anybody. We love our own people so much they think we hate the ones who are inflicting injustice against them. Man who has been shot, the bullet having passed 1/4 of an inch through his heart. I'm not going to let him talk, which I think you can understand why. You should listen to the conversation of the police officer while it was going on. 2 of the brothers who had been shot were lying hand in hand. The officer said they were chanting a death chant. You read that? They were saying, Allahu Akbar. What does that mean? It means that God is the greatest. It means that God is the greatest. Understand this, that the white officer called a death chant was a prayer. They were praying when they were shot down. They were saying, Allahu Akbar. And it shook the officer up because they haven't heard black people talk any kind of talk but what they taught them. And 2 of the brothers who were shot in the back were telling me that as they lay on the sidewalk, they were holding hands. They held hands with each other, saying Allahu Akbar. And the blood was seeping out of them where the police bullets had torn into their inside. Still they said Allahu Akbar. And the police came and kicked them in the head. Police kicked them in the head, telling them to shut up that noise, while they were laying on the sidewalk in front of our temple. Kicked them in the head. Shut up that noise. And one of them, when he was on his way to the police station in the ambulance, one of the ambulance attendants told the white cop, why don't you kill the nigger? He said, I'll tell him that he tried to get away. Why don't you kill the nigger while you got a chance? And I'll swear that he tried to get away. If he didn't say this, then I need to be put in jail, and I'll gladly go. One of them who was being taken to jail in a police car. As the ambulance sirens were coming to the place, one of the policemen said to the other, what are the ambulances rushing for? Nothing but some niggers. So he looked in and saw the Muslim brother sitting beside him, and he said, and he shut up. But after he got to the jail, the same officer that said this turned to the brother and said, I hope that you didn't get offended by what I said back there under the heat of emotion, because some of my best friends are colored. This is what he said. That's his password. Some of my best friends are colored.
This incident mirrors a great deal the untellable brutality and oppression wherein the blacks were meshed in that traumatic era of racism and segregation.
And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk, why, you're the one that make it hard for yourself. The white man believes you when you go to him with that old sweet talk, because you've been sweet talking him ever since he brought you here. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
As we stand at the precipice of a new era, we are forced to confront the devastating legacy of self-hatred that has been ingrained in our collective psyche as blacks. The question echoes through the corridors of our minds. Who taught you to hate yourself? The answer lies not in the mirror, but in the systems of oppression that have perpetuated the degradation of blacks.
Muslims, we identify ourselves with the dark world. So we're not any minority. We're part of the majority, and the white man is the minority. You have to know this to understand us. We don't think any odds are against us. We don't fight a battle like the odds are against us. Why, the whole dark world today is in unity. It's one. If you don't think so, look at the United Nations. When the dark world votes, they vote as one. They get the colonialists out of Africa and out of Asia, telling them to get out. They don't have any nuclear weapons, but they got a solid, united voice, and their unity alone is sufficient to drive the oppressor and exploiter of their people out of their own country. You and I need to learn a lesson from that right there. In the UN, the dark world consists of Buddhists, Hindus, Shintoists, Taoists, Christians, Muslims, everything. But they're together. They forget their religious and political differences. They think as one. They move as one against a common enemy. All over this earth, dark people who have been oppressed and exploited by those who are not their own kind, strangers, are coming together to get the oppressor off their back. You and I learn a lesson from that. We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. When they sat down at the Bandung Conference, everyone there had this in common: a dark skin. Some of those who were sitting there were socialists, some were communists, some were capitalists, some were Christians, some were Buddhists. They were everything. But all of them was dark skin. And they looked at that dark skin and agreed that this is one thing they had in common. Forget that you're a Methodist. Forget that you're a Catholic. Forget that you're a Protestant. Forget that you're a Muslim. Remember that all of us are black and we're catching hell.
It is time for us to reclaim our narrative, to redefine our identity, and to rise up against the forces that have sought to erase our humanity. We will no longer be bound by the shackles of self-doubt and internalized racism. We will no longer be taught to hate ourselves. We will rise, we will resist, and we will reclaim our rightful place as a proud, powerful, and unapologetic people. Thanks to Malcolm, you forever remain in our hearts. This brings us to the end of yet another mind-stimulating video. Support our works by hitting the thumb button. Share with friends and families to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative, and consider subscribing to stay tuned in to the channel for more revealing contents. We're glad to have you with us in this mind-reforming journey. See you in the next video.